Lost dog waited at the same bus stop for weeks. Then the driver opened the door. The Route 17 bus kept a rhythm. Brake hiss, door chime, coins in a metal throat, the same faces in different coats. Dina Morales drove mornings and told time by passengers. Mr. Alvarez with his crossword at 6:10. The bakery kid with flour on his shoes at 6:18. The nurse coming off nights at 6:24. And lately, at Maple and 3rd, a dog. He sat on the bench like a person who'd learned the schedule. Medium-sized, shepherd mix, coat the color of toast, white blaze on his chest like an unwritten sentence. No collar, no human. Rain or shine, there at 6:21, eyes on the bend in the road where the bus appeared. "Hey, buddy," Dina said the first morning, voice drifting out of the open doors with the heat. He didn't come closer. He didn't bolt. He just watched. When she pulled away, he stood and trotted alongside for a few steps, then stopped and sat again, as if the routine mattered more than results. By day 4, other drivers were talking. "You got the stop dog. He won't get on. He won't leave." A mechanic left a bowl of water under the bench. The bakery kid spilled crumbs on purpose. On a cold Friday when the sky felt like tin, Dina set the brake and stepped down with a slice of ham from her lunch. "No pressure," she said to the street. "Just company." She set the meat on the curb and backed up 2 full paces the way a person who's learned respect does. The dog came forward, slow, ears tipped like question marks, took the ham softly, and retreated to the bench. He held Dina's eyes for the space of 1 red light. Then he looked past her, toward the sidewalks beyond the bus's route, toward a world that hadn't shown up. "You waiting for someone?" she murmured. It wasn't a question. He came every morning after, same time. On weekends he shifted to the later bus as if his watch had slept in. If the plows dumped grey snow on the curb, he moved to the patch of sidewalk that stayed dry under the pharmacy awning and watched from there. Dina called animal control on day 9. Officer Hannah Cole came in a city truck that had seen too many winters. She crouched by the bench, let the dog smell her glove, and tried the old trick with a slip lead and a meatball. He eyed the rope and politely declined. "He's not a stray," Hannah said, standing. "He's anchored. That bench means somebody to him." "So what do we do?" Dina asked, because doing nothing felt like the wrong size for her day. "We watch. We post," Hannah said. "I'll scan him if I can get close enough to touch." She left a packet of lost dog flyers and a note taped under the bench in a plastic sleeve. "If this is your dog, call me." The calls came, but none were him. "Looks like mine. Oh, the blaze is bigger. We lost a beagle last month. Could he have turned into this?" Internet strangers fought about everything except the one thing that needed doing. Showing up at Maple and 3rd and letting a dog set the pace. On a Tuesday, when Dina's coffee burned her tongue and the world smelled like brake dust, the dog was not at the stop. Her stomach did a stupid, fast drop. She pulled over anyway, put on the flashers, and noticed paw prints stitched into the snow leading toward the parking lot behind the pharmacy. "Hang on," she told the bus. Mr. Alvarez looked up from his crossword, saw the look on her face, and nodded like a neighbor at a fence. "Take your time," he said. Behind the pharmacy, tucked between the dumpster and the fence, the dog had turned a pile of flattened cardboard into a nest. Beside it sat a plastic grocery bag tied in a knot. The knot wasn't human neat. It was a dog's work, chewed, worrying the handles together until they held. Inside, a tennis ball, a folded bandana, and a bus pass cracked down the middle. Dina crouched. The bandana smelled like laundry soap and something sweet. She shook it open. Someone had written in Sharpie on the corner, "Nova. If lost, wait by the 17. Maple and 3rd. Thoughtful. "Nova," Dina said aloud, and the dog's ears clicked. He took 1 step toward her and stopped, nose working at the air above the bandana like the name had a smell. He looked back at the bench and whining once, an unraveled sound. "Okay," she whispered, like you do when a scared kid is weighing trust. Thoughtful. We're going to find your person. She called Hannah. She called the number on the animal control note she had memorized. Bring the scanner, she said, and a minute. They didn't need the meatball that day. Nova let Hannah touch his shoulder, then slide the wand along his spine. The scanner chirped. A chip. Finally, Hannah breathed, tapping the number into her tablet. The registry spat back a name and a 3-month-old address. Owner, Sloane Peters. Phone disconnected. 3 months ago, Hannah said. Same time he showed up. Bus pass, Dina said, holding it up. The singed edge looked like it had been through a lint trap. The ink was rubbed, but she could still make out SPETERS and the Route 17 logo. Nobody rides my bus without me remembering, Dina said. I know that name. She didn't, not at first. But Route 17 had a lot of story in it, and if you turned the kaleidoscope slowly enough, pictures lined up. On Mondays, a woman in scrubs would board at Maple and 3rd with a dog's head briefly catching the light at the apartment window above the stop. The woman, brown hair, tired eyes, a laugh that belonged to someone with a guitar, always sat in the sideways seat so she wouldn't get motion sick. She always said thank you when she got off by the East Clinic. 3 months ago, she'd stopped saying thank you. Dina called the clinic. Privacy laws in their precise clothes said no, but a receptionist with a heart that refused to shrink said carefully, we can't share details. We can say, there was an accident. A bus rider named Sloane. Rehab. Out of town. Family is trying to sort her dog. We couldn't catch him. So he waited, Dina whispered, and felt something rearrange in her ribs. The next morning, Dina stopped the bus, opened the doors and stood. Nova watched from the bench. Route 17, she said to the cold air. Next stop, home. He cocked his head. 2 cars back, a commuter laid on the horn and then saw the dog and shut up. Hop in, Nova, she tried, ridiculous and not. He didn't move. She looked at the bench and saw the words on the bandana again. If lost, wait by the 17th. The order was wrong. The ritual was right. Okay, she said. New plan. She laid the bandana on the bottom step of the bus. She sat on the curb beside it and opened her lunch like a picnic in winter. She told Nova about the people who rode her mornings, about Mr. Alvarez and the flower kid, and the nurse who fell asleep sitting up once, about the way the sun hits the river after 7. After 5 minutes, Nova took a step. After 10, his paw touched the rubber tread of the step. After 12, he crept forward until his shoulder was inside the bus, and his chest was still outside, not yet surrendering the bench to the future. Take your time, she said, even as her wristwatch nagged. Behind her, nobody complained. Mr. Alvarez had put his crossword down. He was watching the dog with the reverence he saved for the final clue. Hannah's truck pulled up. She lowered her window, didn't get out, and spoke without moving her mouth too much, as if sound could break trust. I reached Sloane's sister, she said. Maya. She's been trying all this time. Flyers, calls. She'll be at the stop tomorrow. She said, the hospital cleared a short visit. Dina's eyes filled. Tell her to bring the thing that smells like home. Already did, Hannah said. She nodded at Nova. We'll keep watch. The next morning, Maple and 3rd felt like a stage you don't want to jinx. Snow had softened into slush. The bakery kid brought a whole bag of broken croissants. Mr. Alvarez wore his good cap. The nurse off night stayed an extra 5 minutes for no reason, she admitted. Dina pulled the bus in and kissed the curb with the precision of a person parking her own heart. Nova stood as the doors opened. He looked past her, waiting. A small sedan eased up behind the bus. A woman got out with a canvas tote pressed to her chest, and the kind of fear on her face that only makes sense if you've loved something you couldn't reach. Nova, she said, voice breaking on the second syllable. He didn't bark. He moved. A sound left his throat that dogs save for these moments, half yip, half cry. He crossed the little strip of dirty snow like it was a continent and slammed into her legs, then circled her, smelling knees, elbows, history, every pocket where Sloane kept treats. He shoved his face into the tote and pulled out a flannel shirt that had been a pillow once. Maya dropped to her knees on the wet sidewalk and put both hands on Nova's face, and they talked without words for a full minute while the 17 route and a third of the city pretended they had something in their eye. She's stable. Maya got out finally, looking up at Dina, at Hannah, at everybody. They're letting her see him. She asks for him when she's between the fog. The rehab floor said we can bring him today if we can, if he's willing. Dina pointed at the bus. He knows how to wait, she said. Let's teach him how to ride. Nova looked at the open door and then at the bench. He didn't want to betray the rule. Maya held up the flannel and patted the bottom step. Route 17, Nova, she whispered. Home. He climbed aboard like a pilgrim. Passengers scooted. A whole civic choreography to make room. Mr. Alvarez patted the sideways seat like an usher. The bakery kid wiped the floor with napkins. Dina pulled the lever and the door's sides shut, and the bus did the only holy thing it could. It moved. At St. Anne's Rehab, they had just mopped the hallway, and the fluorescent lights were pretending to be daylight. Sloane sat propped in bed with her hair in 2 braids that someone had made because hands need jobs in rooms like that. Her left side was slower to answer. Her right hand fidgeted like it wanted a guitar. Her eyes were bright and tired and ready. Maya stood in the doorway. I brought you a passenger. Sloane frowned, confused, and then the sound reached her. A set of nails on waxed floor, a breath she knew better than her own, a small whine that held 1,000 walks in it. She tried, lips stubborn. No. Nova, Maya said softly. You can say it. Nova, Sloane finished, and the dog put his chin on the bed and then his heart. And a nurse at the station outside put her face in her hands because some miracles wear fur. He didn't jump. He didn't tangle the IV. He settled, half on the bed, half on the world, as if he'd trained all this time for hospital corners. Sloane's right hand found the white blaze on his chest and made home out of it. Her breathing changed. The monitors, which had been petty all morning, learned manners. Dr. Priya Shah, who traded call with Dr. Chen and had learned to spot Grace, stepped in, took one look and said, 15 minutes, which was her way of pretending rules were stricter than her heart. 15 minutes became 20. When it was time, Nova stood because she needed him to. Maya pressed her forehead to Sloane's and said, We'll be back. On the way out, a social worker with sensible shoes and a pile of forms said to Maya, We can work on pet-friendly housing after discharge. She glanced at Nova. I'll move heaven. You move the earth. Back at Maple and Third, the bench looked smaller without him. Dina taped the bandana to the underside like a relic. Hannah swapped the plastic sleeve for a better one and slid a new note inside. Nova's shift ended. Thank you for standing watch. A week later, passengers were still asking, how's the dog, the woman? Dina started keeping a small whiteboard above her fare box with updates. Nova, learning elevator. Sloane, walked 20 steps. People paid exact fare and rounded up with their hearts. When the day finally came for discharge, Maya texted a photo to the number on the transit supervisor's business card. It hit the Route 17 group chat in seconds. Sloane on the bench, Nova at her knee, and a bus pass in her hand like a trophy. At 6:21 the next morning, Dina pulled up to Maple and Third and opened the doors to the smell of coffee and bus heat. Nova stood, looked at the bench with fond seriousness, then hopped aboard without being asked. Sloane tapped her pass and grinned at the beep. Mr. Alvarez lifted his cap. The bakery kid offered a croissant. The nurse off nights fell asleep 2 stops early and Nova rested his head near her elbow in case dreams got loud. Dina pulled into traffic and caught Sloane's eye in the mirror. Good to have you back, she said. We saved your seat. Sometimes a city shows you where its heart is at a bus stop at dawn. A dog who refuses to move until the right doors open. A driver who opens them anyway. A whole route of strangers who decide being late is less important than being human. Sometimes you write a rule in Sharpie on a bandana, and a dog enforces it until the day fairness finally shows. If this story kept you waiting, in the good way, like and share it. Subscribe to Next Kindness, where the next thing that happens is grace.